Well, the Denver machine has finally been stopped. The Broncos losing on the road to the Indianapolis Colts last week. They return home this week to host the Washington Redskins. Denver installed as a 13-point favorite on BETDAQ. 58.5, a very high total in this game. We do expect a lot of offense here. Of course, offense is nothing new in games involving the Denver Broncos. They lead the NFL in yards per game, points per game, passing offense. Denver averaging 42.6 points per game, 361 pass yards per game. Now, they're also last in the NFL in passing defense, 30th in total defense. So that's why we see a total like 58.5 here. The Redskins, a similar type of team. They're just worse on offense, and in my opinion, they're worse on defense. Statistically, they're very similar on defense, but what I saw out of the Denver defense last week in that loss to Indianapolis, I don't know if you saw that game, but in the second half, Denver really came out, and you don't want to use the word dominated, but they controlled the Indianapolis offense in the second half. Von Miller, of course, has now returned from his 6-game suspension. I expect the Broncos to improve on defense throughout the second half of the season. I do not think this is one of the NFL's worst defenses, despite what the stats would tell you right now. I do think the Washington Redskins have one of the NFL's worst defenses. The Redskins allowing over 30 points per game, 30th in the NFL in points allowed. Facing this Denver offense that's averaging 42.6 points per game, you can't like their chances. Now, I know the public is all over Washington in this spot. They think Denver is still overvalued, and that's understandable. After watching the Broncos play last week, they certainly looked vulnerable, and they're laying a big number here at 13 points to a team that won the NFC East last year and beat the Chicago Bears last week. However, I think this is a great spot for a Denver play. Denver has the best offense in the NFL, Washington with one of the worst defenses, and I believe Denver's defense is slightly underrated, while the Redskins' offense slightly overrated. Washington is top 10 in the league in both yards per game, pass yards per game, rush yards per game, and I believe they're 10th or 11th in points per game. And even though they did finally play well last week against Chicago, you look at their previous games, they racked up a lot of that yardage in the second half when they're well behind. They've struggled in the first half of games when defenses are really locked in and when the games are still in doubt. The Redskins 2-4 this season, not good on both sides of the ball. I believe this is just a bad team all around. I think the Redskins are headed for a 6-10, 7-9 type season. I don't believe they're about to turn it around. So I do like Denver in this game. Think they're going to win comfortably. I do expect them to cover the 13.